This is classwork video 11.4. I'd like you to use the handouts I'm giving you, copy all the work, and then write down the 5 words to show me that you are listening to what I'm saying. So here we go. Ways to describe data. These are all functions. They all pass the function test. They're functions. So the way to describe data, all my X numbers are what I call the domain. All my Y numbers are what I call the range. So again, the X numbers, anywhere there's an X number, those are the domain numbers. Anywhere there's a Y number, those are the range numbers. So you could either just by looking at this graph because you're smart, or by writing each coordinate down to make sure you're using the right numbers. All you got to do for domain is list all of the X numbers there. So that's 2 from that first coordinate, 4 from that second coordinate, 6, and then that last one's going to be 7. Again, just using your eyeball to get those numbers to write down. Range are the Y numbers from those coordinates. So that first range from that coordinate, the Y number is 1. First word is bull. Bull. The second one, the Y coordinate is 3. The third one, the Y coordinate is 7. And the fourth one, the Y coordinate is 10. And again, I'm getting all those numbers by either getting and looking at the X number in the coordinate or looking at the Y number in the coordinate. That's where I'm getting all these values. This one's being 6, 7. This one up here being 7, 10. All the X numbers are where I got that list of domain numbers. All the Y numbers where I got that list of from the coordinates, the Y numbers. All right, the harder part is describing it if it's discontinuous, not discrete data, not dots, continuous data. This is where it gets a little bit more dicey. And again, they're really technical. Looking at these, you got to know that these spots have no dots. There's no dots there. These have dots. They're super, super technical about these problems. You got to be real careful looking at exactly what I give you in terms of, oh, no dots or just a little spot. Again, I know it's kind of weird, but just looking at it. All right, so here we go. The spot tells me set notation are my X numbers from left to right, where that boundary kind of slices through the X-axis. That's where I'm getting my values for my domain, looking at from -5 all the way here to 8. So when I'm writing all these answers, that's where I'm getting these numbers for my domain. From that -5, sweeping left to right to that 8 on the X-axis, that's domain. And then of course right away to review or to help you, range, you don't look at the X numbers. Range, it's a boundary from bottom to top where you look at not the X numbers, but where that boundary from bottom to top is slicing through the Y axis. That's where I'm going to be getting my range numbers. And again, some of you, this is easy. Some it takes a little bit of practice, but we'll get you there, I promise. So here we go. Backtracking. Set notation using symbols. Domain, this spot right here being a circle, I got to do a square bracket from that -5, comma, to all that 8 all the way to the right. And then because this has another dot, I do another square bracket. If that dot was missing, I would have done a rounded bracket right there, but that dot is there, square bracket. Interval notation, always the X, and then always the inequalities go in this direction, but the only difference is sometimes they have that little line under there or sometimes they don't, but they always go that same direction. So again, right here, less than or equal to, you want to put that same -5 right there. And again, I got that from this number right here. And then the right boundary there is another inequality. Remember that X is sandwiched between there, and because that's a dot, another inequality with that line under there, and I put the 8. So that's interval notation, represents the same data. Range are my Y numbers. So here I go, range, I got this same spot with a solid dot, so that's going to be a square bracket. And then I use that value where it's slicing through the y-axis instead, 3. And then that goes up to a spot up here where it's dicey, no dot up here. So that means my next number, that 7, I gotta be super technical and draw a rounded bracket, otherwise I will not get full credit. And then you gotta make sure you draw it real clear so I know if it's clearly square or clearly rounded, because if you show me something I don't really know, you might lose some credit. And then of course, interval notation with that Y in the middle, inequalities always go in the same direction, but just sometimes they got this little line under here, or sometimes they don't. This one, because of the bracket being square, does have the little line. And I put that 3. Another inequality this way, but this time, because this is a rounded bracket, I don't put that little line under there. I leave it, and I put that 7. And again, they're super technical. If you would have put that little line under there, you would have not got full credit describing that data. Real technical. All right, here we go, another one. Looking at these 2 spots, no circles, open spots, open parts of my data. Range domain, here we go. That's going to be a rounded bracket through -5. That's where my domain comes from that -5 on the x-axis to 8 on the x-axis again, and that's going to be another rounded bracket for this one. Interval notation is going to be that x in the middle. Inequalities both are going to be missing that little line, and then I use that same -5 to 8. When I do my range here, let's get rid of these red lines. Second word is goat. Goat is the second word. All right, range, I don't look at the x numbers. Range, I look at the y numbers instead. So for range, here I go. My boundary, not from left to right, my boundary from bottom to top, from bottom to top. And looking at this spot, no dot. But up here, I got a dot, man. They're so technical. So here I go for my range. Since that bottom part of my boundary doesn't have a dot, I use that y number, 3, a rounded bracket, comma, and then that top part, because it has a dot, I use a square bracket, and I get that y number from the y-axis, number 7. Square bracket. And just know, these don't always have 8s and 7s. It just happened to be that way for these 2 examples. That next 2 won't have 8s and 7s. I'm not sure why that happened. But here we go. 3. And then I put a inequality without the line. Y in the middle always. And then this inequality less than or equal to, really technical, and my 8 right there. So again, they're really technical about their shapes. You got to know clearly if it's rounded or if it's square or if it's missing the line or if it has the line. You have to know that. Super technical math. All right, here we go. Last ones, last 3 words. Going a little bit faster here. You could always pause it. So in my domain's going to be square bracket for this one from -8 all the way to 10, rounded bracket. Interval notation is going to be that same -8 less than or equal to, because that dot is there. X always for domain, less than, because there's no dot, 10. My range goes from -5, rounded, that's where it's slicing through the y-axis, range is tough, up to +5, another rounded bracket, because there's no dot up there either. And then Describing that, -5, less than, put that y in there, less than 5. Notice those inequalities are both missing the line. Next word is dog. Build more reps. Here we go. This one, domain, goes from rounded -6 to (9) square. Interval goes from -6 less than x less than or equal to 9. My range slices through 1 on the y-axis. That's going to be a square bracket because of that dot. +1 up to 6 on the y-axis. Another square bracket because of that dot. Describing that, 1 less than or equal to, because of that square bracket, y less than or equal to 6. Again, building those reps. This guy, domain, goes from square bracket -10 square bracket because of that dot, comma 2, 5, another square bracket. Interval notation, -10 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 5. All right, my range slices through square bracket -3 on the y-axis instead, up to +1 square bracket, because both those spots have solid dots. And then describing it from -3 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 1. Next word is whale. Whale. All right, so I know I did those quick, but just to help you remember, domain is where the data slices from left to right, and I get the numbers where it begins in that slice left to right through the x-axis. That's where I'm getting all my domain numbers, and then the symbols come from it being a dot or no dot. If I'm doing my range, don't look at the x-axis. For range, you're looking at the y-axis from bottom to top, not left to right, but bottom to top. And then that boundary from bottom to top, you're getting those boundary numbers from where that boundary from bottom to top slices through the y-axis. That's where I'm getting my range numbers. And then, of course, the symbols come from there being dots or no dots, where that boundary starts and ends. The last word is bear. Bear. Good luck. Talk to you in a bit.